the one, the only, Benzion. Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Iyun with Benzion. Today's daf is Gittin Chav Gimel, Gittin number 23. The Gemara towards the bottom of Chav Gimel and Aleph, there's two lines from the bottom. They asked Rabbi the following question: Eved Mao Shias Shliach Lekabel Get Isha Miad Baila. The Mishnah, a couple of lines before, in the middle of the daf, says that certain people are not kosher to bring a get. A husband can make a shliach to give the get to his wife. A chayre shota katan suma, non-Jew. All are not allowed to do it. It's mashma from the Mishnah. Then Eved would. And Eved Knain, he would be allowed. But that's not the question. The question is, Eved ma'osh yas shliach lekabel get isha miyad baila. Could he be a shliach lekabala? Now, why does the Gemara ask the question the way the Mishnah phrased it? Who is kosher lahaviyat haget? That he is shliach leholacha, that he brings the get from the hands of the man to the woman, or to the shliach of the woman. Why is the Gemara not phrase it like that? That's a big question the Rishonim deal with over here. So Rashi says the Gemara just asked it this way because that's the way it was asked in the base medrash. But vice versa, it would be the same. It's the same question. And whatever the halacha is in one case would apply in the other case. The Rimagash though says differently. The Rimagash says it's obvious in the case that an eved could be a shliach laholacha. That's obvious. The question is whether an eved could be a shliach lakabala. Could the woman appoint him? And on that, the Gemara eventually rules on Chav Gimel and Beis on the top. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Eina eved nasa shliach lakabala get liisha." So according to Rimagash, there's a split in the halacha that an eved could be kosher to bring a get. He's kosher to shliach halacha, but he's not kosher to makabel a get on behalf of the woman. That's interesting. The Rimagash says. Now the question is, how do you understand what the Rimagash says? So the Ramban explains the Rimagash. I'll read it for you over here. What the article says. Rimagash's opinion is explained as follows: until the moment the woman or her agent receives the get, no change of marital status has occurred. Hence, the agent of delivery, who merely brings the get to the point at which it is received, does not affect the change in marital status, and thus need not be personally subject to the Jewish law of divorce. Right? We said the reason Eved is not kosher is not Torah's Gittin v'Kiddushin. Since, however, a woman does become divorced with her or agent's receipt of the get, the agent must indeed have the legal capacity to receive or acquire the get. Right? The shliach has to act on behalf of the woman, and when the shliach is makabel the get, that's when the transaction happened. Since a slave is not subject to the Jewish law of divorce, he lacks that capacity and therefore cannot function as an agent for receiving a get. Okay, so that's the reason the Ramban, as explained by the Rashba. This is the way he explains the Rimagash's opinion. That's the way of understanding it over here. Now, it's still a little difficult to me because even when the man makes a shliach, right, he's giving over the power to Nesinas Hagev and Nasan Biyada. He has to give over the get. So that also is part of Torah's Gittin v'Kiddushin. And the Nesina, that's one of the integral parts of Kiddushin, right, is the Nesina. He has to do it on behalf of the husband. So to me, that's a little difficult. And I would like to say exactly the opposite of the Rimagash. I would say that it's obvious in the case that he can never be a shliach laholacha. He can never be a shliach laholacha. The Kabbalah is a shayla. Why is not a shayla? Because the Gemara already answered why he can't be a shliach laholacha. Why can't he be a shliach laholacha? The answer is the Gemara talks about a non-Jew. The Mishnah talks about a non-Jewish person. By a non-Jewish person, it says that a non-Jewish person is not kosher to bring a get. A non-Jewish person is not kosher to bring a get. And the Gemara says, what's the reason? Delav bar heterahu. He's someone who's not a bar heterahu. He's someone that's considered not a bar hetera. What exactly does that mean? So I'll read you what the article says. Bar hetera means he's not bar hetera. Since he is not capable of releasing a Jewish woman from a marital bond. In front of 27, the laws governing marriage differ for Jews and idolaters. Unlike a Jew, an idolater does not acquire a wife performing an act of kedusha, which initiates the marital relationship, nor does he dissolve his marriage by giving his wife a get. And since the idolater is himself legally incompetent to effect divorce with a get, he is unqualified to serve as a Jew's agent to perform that function. Okay, so it's basically it's a little problematic because that's really what the Gemara says on Chav Gimel and Beis. The Visha Einav B'Torah's Gittin Kedusha. And Evet is not B'Torah's Gittin Kedusha. That's not what the Gemara says over here. The Gemara says by a non-Jew, he's Lav B'Harei Teiro. When I like to explain on a theme I've explained many times, especially in Masechus Yevamos, we talked about this, that there's two aspects to being part a Jewish person. There's one aspect of Kedusha, being the Kedushas Yisrael, and there's a second part of being part of the Kahal. Right? There's different marrying different people, marrying a Mitzri, marrying a Domi. Talked about being part of the Kahal. That in regards to those halachas, being part of the Kahal was important. Being part of the congregation. Now, there was a fundamental difference between a man and a woman. A woman could never have Kedushas Yisrael. Right? She doesn't get aliyah. Right? There's a Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. They get called up to the Torah. A woman maybe technically could read from the Torah, but she can never get an aliyah. She can never get an aliyah to the Torah. She doesn't have Kedusha. Kedusha is only by men, Kohanim. Only men or Kohanim have Kedusha. The woman in the family of Kohanim can never be Kohanim. There's no Kohanot. There's no Kedushas, Levi, Yisrael, or Kohen for a woman. The Kedusha applies only by men. Women, and part of that is the fact that men are chayiv in all the mitzvahs. Women are not chayiv in all the mitzvahs. Mitzvahs, then women are exempt from those mitzvahs because their time is not their own. And similarly, an Eved or a Shifcha is obligated in mitzvahs just like a woman, because just like a woman, her time is not her own. So to an Eved, his time is not his own. He's required to perform whatever the master wants him to perform. So therefore, he's like they're part of the Kal, right? They're Jewish, they're half Jewish, they're part of the Kal like women, but they're not part of Kedushas Yisrael. And that's what the Gemara means over here by a non-Jew. The Gemara says a non-Jew, an Ovi Kochavim, he can't be a Shliach Kabbalah for a different reason, because he doesn't have Kedusha. He doesn't have Kedusha Yisrael. To be a Shliach for the man, right? The man is divorcing the wife. Again, a Shliach has to be an extension of his arm. He has to fill the shoes of the Mishalech. That's the form of Shlichus we're talking about here. It's not a Shliach where I'm doing something and the results are distributed back to him. It's actually, I'm doing the Maisa of giving the get. I'm acting in his stead. That's really what I'm doing. So you have to transfer your persona to the Shliach. And you can only do that to someone who's like you. An Eved is not like a man because he doesn't have Kedushas Yisrael. Only men have Kedushas Yisrael. So the man is always the one who divorces the wife. So he has to be someone who's a man. A woman wouldn't be good for a Shliach Lahalacha, and neither would an Eved or an Akum, because they don't have Kedushas Yisrael. The question the Gemara asks is, but Isha, she's a woman, can she send an Eved on her behalf to act as a Shliach Kabbalah? Because in that regard, they're both not Kedushas Yisrael, but they're both part of the Kal. They're both part of the Kal. A woman, that's the Gemara's question, that can an Eved do that? And the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan answers, that no, an Eved or Shifcha cannot do that. Why not? Because even though they're similar in many respects, but they're not completely similar in the fact they're not B'Torah's Gittin v'Kiddushin, meaning Gittin and Kiddushin only apply to a woman. So even though a woman and an Eved are similar, and they're both Chayav Mitzvah say Shelo Azman Grama, but there's part of the Kal, and there's less part of the Kal. The Shliach is not completely similar to the woman. They're not part of Gittin v'Kiddushin. So therefore, for the woman to make a Shliach l'Kabbalah in her stead, that's what the Shliach is, the Eved is not exactly like her and can never be in her stead completely, and that's why it doesn't work over there. And certainly it doesn't work in Eved to be a Shliach l'Halacha. I hope you enjoyed today's share. See you on the next one.